Hello and welcome to the webinar on the market-focused strategic planning short business course that's delivered by Alliance Manchester Business School. Today, we're going to talk you through the course in further detail. So we're going to talk you through the approach to delivering the course. We'll talk you through some of the course content. We'll talk you through the assessment and the approach we use for assessments, and also the benefits for individuals and also organisations when people come on this programme. So in terms of today's webinar, my name is Stuart Wells and I'm Executive Director of Client Relations. And I've been in the school for 8 years now, working in executive education, working with a wide range of different clients across the world. And we're also joined by Professor Bryan Lukas, who I'll let himself introduce himself now.
Yes, well, thank you, Stuart. I've also been here for 8 years. Previously in Australia and previously to that in the United States for many, many years. And yeah, so this will be about strategic planning, Stuart, and I look forward to it.
Thank you, Bryan. So I thought it was useful to just give you a bit of background who we are in executive education. So what is executive education? Executive education is professional development for managers and leaders. And we are one of the most experienced executive education providers, certainly in the UK. We have over 50 years experience and we have a team of 70 people now established designing and delivering programs. We're very proud to say that we are a global provider. So we are now operating over 6 continents, and we welcome people from our programs from over 30 different countries. Very much so on the new short business courses as well. We're seeing people coming from all over the world, both university alumni and a range of business professionals who are coming to Manchester for the programs, which is great to see. We are also world renowned for our quality and of delivery of programs. So our Oscars are called the European Foundation Management Development Excellence in Practice Awards. And we're very proud to say in the last 5 years, we have won 3 awards from EFMD, which is a fantastic achievement. We're also highly respected and highly ranked in the Financial Times customized programs rankings. So historically, we've been ranked in the top 25 in the world, and in 2020 we were ranked 3rd in the UK for our approach for delivering customized executive education programs. Next slide, please. So our motto at Alliance Manchester Business School is original thinking applied. And what do we mean by that? We take ideas, we take thinking, we take research from world-leading academics, such as Bryan, to make a difference to individuals so they can upskill as managers, as leaders and technicians, and they can go in and then transform their organizations. And this is really the ethos of the school. It is why the school was formed in 1965, because the government wanted to establish a school that made a difference to working with organizations. And our reputation has grown significantly since then. This image here is of the business school itself. It's a fantastic campus we have here. We've spent £85 million over the last 5 years on the campus. And we have both a world-leading business school, but opposite from where we're presenting from here, we have a world-class executive education centre linked to a Hyatt Regency hotel. So if you come to a short business course with us, you'll have the best facilities in the world to study from. The thinking side of the business school is very, very important to us. So research is key for the business school. We are a research-led university, and we use this research when we're developing our program. So the program that we're here to discuss today has been informed very much by Bryan's research, and I'm sure he'll talk later about this. Also, when we're developing programs, our thinking's got to be global. So we are the most global business school in Europe with 4 international centres. So it's not about delivering a program for Manchester, it's about developing and delivering a program for the world. So that actually you can operate in different markets in different countries. And the applied side of learning is very, very important to us. So the programs you come from do have theory, But for us, it's about taking that theory and applying it into practice. So we use a range of tools and techniques that we call the Manchester Method. And Bryan will talk through some of the tools and techniques we'll deliver the program through today. But it's important that we make the learning stick so that you come on a program that actually this program can have an impact in your organization straight away. And that's what we want to do. We do it both in terms of the tools we apply, but also the assessment criteria for executive education programs. And finally, our promise to you is world-class quality. So we hold what's called the Triple Crown. So business schools are measured in terms of quality by various different kite marks and organizations. So we hold what's called the Triple Crown accreditation, which is EQUIS, AMBER, and ACCSB, which are the top quality benchmarks that you can get in the world, and only 1% of business schools hold this. So the guarantee when you come to the University of Manchester and Alliance Manchester Business School is you're going to get top world-leading thinkers, but also top quality program delivery. And on that note, I'm going to hand you over to Bryan, who's going to talk through the program in further detail.
Right. So thank you, Stuart. I'll be leading you all through this program. And while I'm a professor of marketing, it's really strategic marketing is about managing the market. And that's sort of my domain, my background. And this course is about planning, strategic planning. And it's 4 days, it's face-to-face, and we will have industry speakers, there'll be at least 2. And we'll also have another colleague of mine come in to teach as well across those 4 days. So it won't just be me, but I will, of course, be the central person leading everything. And then there's, of course, you, I will say, and we'll get to your involvement in the following slides, but the next start date is the 31st of October. And this course feeds into what we have created and called the Manchester Professional Diploma in Leadership. So if you do 4 of our open programs, there's 16 at the moment. This is one of them. If you just do any 4, then you will also walk away, not just with the certificate in strategic planning, but also, or 4 certificates indeed, you'll also have the professional diploma as well. So next slide, please. Now, the aim of this course, why this course, strategic planning? Well, the idea is to help you plan winning strategies to beat the market, to beat your competition, to make customers stick. This is the idea, and that is one of the hardest things. If you think about it, some of the highest paid consultants are strategy consultants. They're not accountants, they're strategy consultants. That is generally the sort of the pinnacle in terms of consultancy. And you have to ask yourself why that is, because surely everybody can come up with a strategy. So you come up with an idea. Not at all. So this is really about coming up with a strategy that has a higher percentage of winning, of being successful. And also, it's about giving you a certain logic and a language to be able to participate at higher levels of conversation around strategy in your organization. I'm not expecting you to be executives, no, but you might have those aspirations. You might be sitting at a table where strategy conversations are taking place. You might be leading a strategy formulation session. You might be asked to advise the board. Whichever level that is, I will give you the language, the logic, the tools, and the systematic approach that is best practice in formulating and developing and planning a strategy. So if you think about this, strategic planning is about coming up with a particular goal, deciding on what's our objective, where do we want to be. That alone is a difficult process. And then we have to plan what steps will we take to get to that goal. And both those attributes, the goal setting, as well as which steps, which decisions do we have to take, and what will the decision be to get to that goal, that is what this course is about. How do you do that? You don't just sit there, oh, we'll come up with this, and I think we will reduce the price, and we will enter X market, and we'll focus on 2 segments. Now, how do you come up with that? Why? How do you defend that? How do you defend those ideas, let's say, which market to be in, which particular segments to target, what the value proposition should be in each of those segments, how they should differ, because you're dealing with different segments, right? You're not going to tell them all the same thing. Doesn't make sense if you've got different segments. How do you do that? And how do you make it in a way, how do you come up with it? How do you develop it in a way that is defensive, that holds up to scrutiny? Because you'll have to, of course, have somebody sign off on this usually. And if it's not the board, then it's the shareholders ultimately in the end. So it's got to be defensive. So, and for that, we have certain techniques. There are certain tried and proven processes that reduce the likelihood of making an error in each of these decisions that I have mentioned. Next slide, please. So we will break the day up to get to convey what I've just said into 4 days. We're going to talk about just a little bit about the principles of strategic planning on the first day. We're going to talk about identifying, how do we identify growth areas in the market that are value creating for the stakeholders of the organization, internal stakeholders, shareholders. And importantly, how do we identify the most valuable markets? How do we know that they're the most valuable markets? What would I look towards, and how would I justify saying XYZ is the most valuable market to our organization? That's the first day. The second day then goes into, well, who's actually going to be our competition? And competition is a very tricky beast, if you like. It's not just, well, those people are competing against us, so that's the competition. That's not so much the case. When we talk about competition in our course here, we're going to talk about future competition, entities, individuals, organizations that at the moment might not appear to be in competition, but might be. How do we identify those? How do we predict what they will do? How do we anticipate their trajectory and their reactions when we step up with our strategy? What will they do in response? Those sorts of questions we will address. There are tools for that. There are ways to systematically think through those types of questions. And those tools we will learn in this course. And then, of course, in the third day, we'll then go and talk about the customers. Our customers are not just those who walk into the door, oh, that's a customer. Much broader than that. So we're going to talk about, of course, what kind of segments do we have? Do I need to serve all segments? How do I decide to only serve a certain section, a certain smaller proportion of all segments of the market? How do I make that decision? How do I know which segments to actually target? If you know that answer already, then you don't need to come to this course. But if you don't know, or if you would like to know whether the way you've done this in the past at your workplace, whether that is still best practice, how other companies might be doing it, then you would be absolutely perfect with me, because I will show you how companies think about this, how they justify to focus on certain segments and not on others. That's on the third day, more or less. We'll also, importantly, talk about developing value propositions. What am I going to say to the customer? And there's lots of things I probably could say to the customer about a product, a good or service. So the question is, what in particular should I say if I've only got your 30 seconds in the elevator, the famous analogy there? I mean, what is it that we're going to say? How do I know that that is the right thing to say? How do I come up with the proposition in the first place? There are techniques and tools for that. And that is what we will explore and work through together. Yeah, and then, of course, finally, we have to position ourselves in these markets and the segments of those markets we've chosen to target with our value proposition. We have to put ourselves in a defensible position, in a sense, in a position that is impenetrable, that we are utterly compelling to customers. And that final step is also the final day 4 in our meeting. So you can see we're going through this typical sort of market selection, segment selection, value proposition selection, and then ultimately the positioning. And in each of these selections, we have multiple decisions. And how do you make the decisions sits at the bottom of this course. There are tools for that. I will give you the tools. We'll work through the tools. Next slide. So working through these tools, I will break the delegates on the course up into smaller teams of 3 to 4 people, and you will have a chance to work with these tools on certain projects of your own, if you so wish, but also to comment, to give feedback, to share with others what's been done in your organization. So please think of this course as also learning from each other, as well as from me. And as trivial as it sounds, maybe, but it's not, I'll also learn from you. So it's this sort of, we're in this together. I'll be leading, but it's not just me talking at you. So it's this collective sort of journey we go down, concentrated 4 days intensive. And that's a privilege, I would say, to be able to do that, to take time out and think about how to be more effective in planning strategies. And of course, we will try and bring this to life with lots of examples. We'll have 2 industry speakers. There will be another professorial colleague who will also be on site and will also be delivering some of the materials. So there's variation, and there's a fresh dynamic with those participants as well. Next slide. So really, what's in it for you as you contemplate signing up for this course? What's in it for the organization behind you? Maybe the organization is supporting you in taking some courses. And so I've put together a number of what I think are hopefully persuasive benefits for you as an individual and for the organization on the other side of the screen. But overall, I think what you really want to walk away with, I mean, I can just read all these points out to you. No, you can read that yourself. I think if you just listen to me for a moment, I think the key thing here is to actually walk away with an understanding of how top strategic thinkers think about their strategic problems, how they plan to overcome a particular problem or reach a particular objective, how they do it. And that is and that really is probably one of the key takeaways you can expect when you come on this course. After 4 days, you're going to walk away with a clear idea of how some people are generally more often successful with their strategies. Why is it that way? And I'll give you just a little hint. You know, it's not a big secret really. Up front, you know, they tend to be able to look through all the details, all the mud and all the murkiness, making it what seems a complex problem. They can see through it, laser sharp, right through to the bottom of the pond, and they can say very quickly, it's this, this, and this. That's what we need to keep an eye on. This is where we need to perform. And they have this ability. They don't get distracted. So in a sense, the most difficult thing is to learn to keep it simple. And that will be one of the common themes that I will have in these 4 days, because this is what I've observed over 25 years, watching people make strategic decisions to win in their markets. And there is a pattern, and that's the pattern we will discover. Now, for organizations, of course, delegates who come on behalf of an organization will bring this knowledge back to the organization. It will equip the organization with new knowledge. But I also believe it's important to keep delegates, people who you support, who you are sponsoring, maybe coming on this program, to keep them up to date, to invest in them, because I think that shows that, you know, care. And it shows that you want to have the best possible team every single time, every year. So you don't want just to have people who have a degree maybe 10, 15 years ago, and since then haven't come to update it, haven't had touched base again with contemporary new thinking. So in a sense, it's refreshing, it's updating, and it's also often validating. Are we still doing the right thing? It doesn't mean you're not doing the right thing anymore when you come to a program like this, but it certainly confirms and validates and provides, I think, confidence. So, and there are other advantages are listed here on the slides. And so I think that's enough from the slides. I think what we should do, Stuart, is I think you said you have a couple of questions, so why don't we go to that?
Thanks, Bryan. For taking us through that. And for me, this looks a fantastic program. As you say, it builds on 25 years of really you experiencing, you know, the lessons of really important, good strategic planning. So I think it looks a great program. But the first question I've got for you is, it's a new course. What are you most excited about in terms of launching this program?
Well, just up front, I have not prepped these questions that Stuart's asked me, so I have not heard or seen these questions. So I'm going to have to think on my feet here. I mean, what's exciting about this is, when you look across the landscape of short courses, so when people with substantial experience or with ambitions to move up into a higher level of management, when they look into the market, what courses could they take? You won't find that many courses that are focusing on actually how to make strategic decisions. They are courses around, I don't know, strategy in general, competitive strategy in general. But this one here, I think, and that's what makes me unique, or what makes me excited, Stuart, is it is really tools-based. Yeah, it gets down and says, listen, there's a systematic way to reducing decision error on a strategic level. Yeah, there are ways to improve the likelihood that what you are proposing, that your strategy will be successful. There are ways to increase that percentage. We're in the social sciences. This is not physics or anything, of course, but there are techniques and ways that make the decision-making more successful percentage-wise. And I think that in particular excites me, because it's been a long journey to arrive at the tools and the various topics that I've mentioned earlier. Sure, it's in a sense very traditional. What market should I be in? Surely lots of courses ask that question. What segment should we be in? How do I position myself with the value proposition? That's your typical, targeting and positioning process. But it is the tools within the actual selection of markets, the distinction to the selection of segments, and recognizing that different tools are in play. I think that is what makes this course rather unusual and what excites me. Just to give you a very brief example, we will talk about SWOT. Now, those of you on the call might say, oh my goodness, that's been around since the 60s. Yeah, but the SWOT that I'm going to talk about is not your 2x2, and we put, strengths, weaknesses, words in there, opportunities. No. Very different. The logic is sound. It's been around for donkey's years. But we will look at how to quantify a SWOT, to use it in a numerical way, and then to compare 3, 4, 5, 6 markets, each with its own numerical SWOT, and then to make a very clear, very persuasive and decision, one that holds up to scrutiny, to say it's market 1, 3, and 6 that we should go after, and not market 2 and 4. Yeah, so it's that particular approach that excites me, Stuart.
Okay, Bryan, I can clearly see that. It's a great answer. I'm interested to understand who is this program for, because I work with a lot of businesses, and strategic planning often can be seen as the responsibility of the board, for instance, in an organization. So are we looking at C-suite leaders coming on this program, or is it for a different type of leader?
It is for a number of leaders at different levels. You might be leading a strategic business unit. You might be leading a division. You might indeed be aspiring to be on a board. You might want to move to a chief executive level, chief marketing officer or something like that. But you might also be part of a strategic planning unit within an organization, a member of a team that assists senior members in strategic planning. So you might be in that position. In any of those positions, you need to have these skills. You might be running your own business. It might be a small business. It might be a business with 20 employees or 7 employees. It is not possible to grow that business and to run that business successfully unless you know how to think about strategic challenges, strategic issues, and new objectives in a systematic way, and to sell those to your 5, 10, 200 employees or even more. Or importantly, to those who you report to those who sign off on the budget that you're requesting. Whenever you ask for money, you're going to have a plan. You're going to say, my objectives are this, my strategy is this is how I intend to realize it. I need X amount of money in the budget, please. Now, you're not going to get anywhere unless you have built that up in a sound strategic way. So if you are going to develop, going further, a business plan needs a strategy. It needs a strategic plan. There's a financial plan, of course, and there's a human resource plan, but there's also an element in your business plan that is strategic. Right there, you will need these skills. You'll need the understanding that comes across in these 4 days. And more generally, can I just even step back from any of those responsibilities? So from middle management or aspiring middle management up to senior management, there's something here that I think will be valuable. And again, coming back to this ability to actually see through and recognize what's important, that as a general skill, I think, even if you were not in business, there I go so far, to have an understanding how good strategies are formulated, to understand the various logics behind why companies do certain things, I think is invaluable if you are in business. If you are, let's say, an investor, if you are in, let's say, even in the finance industry, so I'm going a little bit outside of general management, strategic management, even, let's say, if you are advising people in financial acquisitions, there too, you need to be able to look at a company and say, I think their strategy is sound or it's not sound, and this is what needs to be done. If you were involved in company buyouts, you look at a company and you would only buy it if you think you could do better with it. In other words, that you could execute a more powerful strategy than what's currently underway. That's the only reason you'd buy a company in most cases, right? That's certainly what venture capitalists do. So for all of those reasons, and for all of the people who have such reasons, that is who this course is for.
Okay, thank you, Bryan. That's a great answer. I've just got one last question. You talked a lot about development of a strategic plan, which is not the easiest thing to do. We've all had to do them throughout our careers, and it's not a simple task. So do you have a range of tools or frameworks that can help people who are going through the course to actually develop that strategic plan?
Oh, absolutely. So it's actually going to be in a chronological order. We start off with the first issue, the first thing. Where do we want to be? What is the objective? How do I might have a rough idea that I want to achieve X, Y, Z, but what in particular? How do I know what I want to achieve? There will be tools and a certain approach to that on the first day. We'll show you how to isolate and pinpoint the exact target, so to say. And then I will show you what is a very good sequence of analysis and decisions, much like domino stones, because you start off here and then the next stone falls, the next stone falls, the next stone falls, and then it sort of runs its course. This natural course of strategy planning is basically what the 4 days are about, and they start with day 1 and end with day 4. Your first domino stone, your last domino stone, and each of these domino stones have certain frameworks and tools associated with them. So in a way of frameworks that will say, right, when you're looking at this particular problem, such as how do I know that the 3 value propositions that we have thought about, how do I know which one to choose? How would I go about that question? Well, I will show you, give you a framework for you to systematically go through this as an example. And bear in mind, you need this because over the years, you will face again and again decisions in your organization. And if each time you approach that decision differently, you're going to get a variance in your decisions. So your professionals have systematic approaches to their questions. When there's a certain question or problem, they have a certain way that they go about it, and they go about it each time in the same way. And it's that sameness that brings in the consistency and the professionalism in developing a plan, in stating what strategy needs to be executed. What do we need to do to get to our objective? And that what do we need to do to identify that has to be done in a systematic way, because you cannot, again and again, when you come up with the same problem, different, it just in a different cloaking, but it's a different problem, then you have to approach it in the same systematic way. That's going to be another thing I'm going to show you, actually. It's another hallmark of my observations over the last 25 years. So yes, lots of tools in a logical sequence. It doesn't mean that you're going to get one certain way, the Bryan Lukas way. No, you can then, of course, mix and match later, and you might just have one particular problem later, and you can say, oh, right, I remember on day 3, we talked about these kinds of problems. I will go back and get that tool. So, Stuart, that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you, Bryan. Sounds absolutely fantastic. Real, variation in terms of tools and techniques, but obviously you've got, your experience factored with industry professionals coming in. It looks a fantastic program that we look forward to launching in the school. So that the program takes place in Manchester, as Bryan said at the beginning of the webinar. Next program is the 31st of October. We are delivering the program on site here in Manchester, and it's not just the program itself. We do have a range of social activities around that program, and you will get to see Manchester as well as get to see the university itself. So we look forward to welcoming you to the program. If you have any questions for us, then please feel free to contact us at the email address on the screen here, shortbusinesscourses@manchester.ec.uk. We also have a website. All of the programs, and this program is on the AMBS Executive Education website, and all the course content is there. And you can simply book through the website as well and reserve a space for the program. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you in October, and thank you for watching the webinar.